the intent to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting, procession, or gathering. He obstructs or interferes with the meeting, procession, or gathering by physical action or verbal utterance. An offense in this section is a Class B misdemeanor. That is a disrupting meeting or procession, Texas Penal Code 42.05. Thank you.
We're going to give Mr. Soto a couple of minutes before we call this meeting to order at 6:02. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Mr. Young, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move to item number 3, establishment of quorum.
Diego Madrid.
Here.
Larry Garcia.
Here.
Joey Rodriguez.
Here.
Jesse Ganda.
Here.
Maria Reyes.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem, we have quorum.
This time.
I'd like to make a motion to move item in this particular order. Agenda item 5, agenda item 12, agenda item 13, agenda item 14, agenda item 6, and agenda item 15. Item 4.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, seconded by Joey Rodriguez, to move items number in this order, 5, 12, 13, 14, 6, and 15. Diego Madrid.
Yes.
Larry Garcia.
Yes.
Joey Rodriguez.
Yes.
Maria Reyes.
Move the numbers again, please.
They are 5, 12, 13, 14, 6, and 15. Your vote, ma'am? No?
We now move on. Motion passes. We now move on to item number 5, presentation by city manager on 2010-2011 financial report.
Mayor, members of council, public, in any good business enterprise, you all would want to establish what's called a run rate. In our enterprise here, a run rate looks at sort of like profit and loss. Our profit is revenue coming in, and our loss is expenses going out. And to see whether our revenues coming in exceed our expenses going out. All right? So as an example, a little teaching example, if you have a budget of $24, all right, and you divide it over a monthly period, at the end of the third month, how much would you have spent and revenue come in order to break even?
$6.
$6, exactly, okay? You have 24 divided by 12, equals 2 times 3 months, $6. Now, if you only had $5 coming in revenue, would that be a positive thing in those first 3 months? No, it'd be negative, right? If you had $7 in expenses for the first 3 months, would that be a positive thing or would that be a negative thing?
Negative.
Negative, because it'd be over the $6. You're only projecting to have 6, but you have expenses of 7. So you want to have a run rate that has surplus in revenue and a run rate for expenses that spends less than what your projected revenue is for whatever that period of time. But any good business enterprise has that. And so that's what I want to start with for you. Which one? The whole thing there? That's one before. Show the side. Okay. All right. You have the actual formal report in your exhibits, but these are the key numbers that I've highlighted in the actual report that now are in this PowerPoint, all right? On our revenue report and our expense report. It's a 2-page report that we have that has a whole bunch of numbers. It has all the revenues coming in, different types, and all our expenses coming in, all right? And the numbers I've highlighted for you as of the end of June, which is 9 months, here's when we divide our budget into 12 months, this is how much revenue we would expect to take in, or slightly under $4.5 million. This is how much revenue we've actually taken in. Okay, in the second column, or slightly under $4,800,000. So we have a positive budget surplus in revenue of $300,000 over the first 9 months. This will probably project out to something closer to $400,000 by the end of the year. So we have like a $35,000 to $40,000 monthly surplus in revenue. Good thing. Okay? The next one. Where's this one? Okay. Here's the expense report. These are your expenditures. Again, if we divide up our $6 million budget for expenses, divided by 12 times 9 months, this is how much we should have been spending if we were on course, or slightly more than $4.6 million. Right? But here's what we've actually spent. Slightly less than $4,200,000. So we've actually spent, okay, $458,000 less than what we projected to spend. So we've been pretty prudent in the general operations of the city relative to the budget. Net overall to the city, we've got a net surplus because of higher revenues and lower expenses of over $600,000. Okay? So that's the first report there. All right, from there. All right. You have a full-page report there from our depository, Wells Fargo, up in the left-hand corner in the original exhibits, where we redacted all the budget, all our account codes, and we don't want those out on the street. But I've highlighted 2 numbers from that report for you on that particular page. And the first one is, how much do we have in our general operating budget as of a week ago? And what this says is we have about $5.1 million. Okay. If we're spending about $450,000 a month, this equates almost to a year's worth of reserve. Because we're taking enough to do the operations plus some surplus. So we have $5 million in reserve, which is about a year's reserve for the city. A good standard for business is to have somewhere between 3 and 6 months, okay, to maintain that, right? And then down further on in that particular page from the bank that I've highlighted for you, here's how much we have left in our certificates of obligation from 2008 and 2010. About $3.8 million. Right? That's on that particular sheet. Okay? All right. Our internal report, when we look at our COs, 2001, 2004, 2008, 2010, here's how much the value was when we acquired the proceeds, about $10.5 million. Here's what our internal report says we've spent, and the balance is about $4 million. We're identifying the differences between our amount in the bank and the amount that we have on our system, okay? And we're going through the accounting process to try to identify that. We'll bring that to you. But the differential is only about 2 or 3% of the total, all right? So, but we'll close that gap, if you will, okay, in a future report that I'll give you. All right. For the sale of the new $2.7 million COs that you'll have before you take action tonight, you have to go through a ratings process. All right? And we went through a ratings process with our financial advisor. When that item number 12 comes up on the agenda, he'll come up here and speak to it. All right? Through Standard & Poor's. Okay? And the city, again, received the highest possible rating they could get, an A+ rating. All right? And we got very, very favorable rates on this transaction. I don't want to steal Mr. Lawrence's thunder, because he'll talk to you about that. But you have a report there from Standard & Poor's on the outlook for the city, what our rating is, and that our outlook is stable going forward in terms of the underlying rating for our general obligation bonds for the future. To get this rating in this environment is very, very difficult. This is the second year in a row that we've done that. All right. So the next series of slides comes from my conversations individually with you all, relative to, your goals for the future, your vision about the city. Okay. Those of you that have been with council for quite some time now, in the past year. Of course, Mrs. Reyes hasn't been with us that long, but these goals come from those conversations, okay, about what you wanted to see accomplished for the city. And I've defined 8 goals. You have it there on one page, but you have the individual slides. The first goal is what we've been saying all along, to maintain the same overall tax rates that the city has adopted for the last 3 years. 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011. Later on in the agenda, you'll have this item. You were proposing that you adopt exactly the same tax rate for the 4th year in a row. Okay? Goal 2, later on in this agenda, is to secure the new $2.7 million in certificates of obligation. With your action tonight, favorable, it's done. We actually get the money around the 1st of September. To add to the almost $4 million in COs that we have right now. Okay. And these money big projects are Phase 2 of the community center, Phase 2 of the park, and our new municipal swimming pool to start that project for the citizens of our community. Okay. This should say not to adopt a budget balance based on current revenues for planned operational expenses. Make the money coming in pay for the expenses for it. All right? But goal 4, we may need to use a little of our fund reserve. Well, you can see that we're having a surplus every year, and so it's likely that we won't have to spend it, but we'll end up with a surplus next year. You understand what I just said? Okay? So we might have to dip into that 5.1 million a little bit, maybe 100,000, but we'll still have almost a year's worth of reserve. And I'm working out the numbers now in order to be able to do that. Goal 5, to provide salary increases to be competitive with regional market conditions for police department and municipal court. This action you've already taken. This has already been accomplished. Goal 6, to provide at a minimum a cost of living salary increase for all other city employees. Okay. This will be in the budget with the same tax rates that'll come forward to you in the next couple of weeks. Goal 7, to provide for a projected rate increase in the health benefit coverage costs that are paid for 100% by the city for all employees. Our employees' health, vision, and dental is paid for 100% by the city. They don't have to put up any part of the premium for their coverage. This is scheduled to go up by 10%. So this is also included in next year's budget. And then goal 8, to restructure strategically within and without departments for both functionality and effectiveness. I'll be bringing forward recommendations, okay, in the final stages of the budget adoption process to tell you what these things are, but we're still analyzing this. But given our conversations that we've been having, okay, these are the key goals for this next year's budget development process. Questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah. It's a very simple question. Does this address the issue of transparency?
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I looked up the budget that you have on the website and what you gave us. The numbers aren't the same. Can you tell me why?
It depends on whether you're looking at the original budget on the website or if you're looking at the revised budget. Because the revised budget is higher. We took in, for example, from the Mission Street project, okay, we took in an additional $224,000 when we did the work for the contractor. All right, that would have been in the revised budget. In that revised budget, we also increased your discretionary funds, and we increased attorney fees, given our water litigation. So that's a part of the difference.
That's still quite a bit of a difference just on the revised one.
Well, I'd be glad to come into the office. I'll reconcile it with you.
That's fine. Can you do that?
And when you go to the website, it does have just the original, but since then, we've had, I want to say 4, but for sure 3, we've amended the budget 4 times within the past year. So that's probably the discrepancy.
We'll look at it.
Okay.
There's about $1.5 million difference on what's on the website versus what you gave us. So we can go with that, okay?
Very good.
Thank you.
Move on to,
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
move on to item number 12, second reading and adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Socorro, Texas, providing for the issuance of not to exceed $2,700,000 City of Socorro, Texas combination tax and surplus revenue certificates of obligation, Series 2011, bearing interest at the rates to be set forth in the ordinance to secure funds for the purpose of paying contractual obligations incurred for 1, constructing, reconstructing, and improving sidewalks, streets, and roads, including bridges and intersections, landscaping, traffic safety, and operational improvements, culverts, and related storm drainage and utility relocation, and the acquisition of land interest and land is necessary therefore. Number 2, acquisition of vehicles and equipment for the Public Works Department and Police Department. Number 3, construction and installation of municipal drainage improvements. Number 4, acquisition of land, design, and construction of park and recreational facilities and improvements. Number 5, design, construction, improvement, and equipment of community center facilities. Number 6, acquisition of computer equipment and software for city offices. And 7, legal, fiscal, and engineering fees in connection with such projects, prescribing the form of certificates of obligation, vetting ad valorem taxes for the payment of principal and interest on the certificates of obligation, making certain other covenants of the city in reference to the certificates of obligation, the funds from which said certificates of obligation are to be paid, approving an official statement and awarding sale of said certificates of obligation, and enacting other provisions relating thereto.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Do we have a speaker?
we do have a speaker for this item.
You got it first.
Okay. Ms. Lorenza Friday? Ms. Friday, you have 3 minutes.
This evening, I came again because I saw an item on the agenda. On July the 21st, I came before the City Council, and I asked a question. The reason was that you had a first reading for the seals for $2.7 million on item 15. Then you had the second reading for the same seals on item 8. I made a question as to why were you doing the second reading before the first reading? I was informed by Mr. Wallace, the attorney who was here this evening, that that was law. Now this evening, you have another second reading for the same CO. I'm concerned. I'm concerned about the way COs are being done, and the mere fact that your city manager just gave you a report of a surplus. And I'm also concerned, your city manager just gave you a report that you need to approve the CO for funds of projects you've already approved. So are we approving projects before you have money in hand? I'm concerned. But I'm mainly concerned is what is going on with the city council. Last time, I was told, first reading will go at the end, second reading will come first. Last meeting, you all approved the COs for 2.7 million. And this evening, you're gonna approve them again. I am concerned because I am a taxpayer, and I'm here this evening as a taxpayer, because I believe that we can pay taxes, and we're willing to pay taxes. The only thing is, please do it properly and manage the fundings correctly. This evening, you did get a report from the city manager where you have 5 million of a surplus. You also got a report on the things you all got to do. There are problems here. I am asking you to please turn down and not approve this funding, because I don't believe it's fair for any of us, for you all to create your projects before you even have the money in your hands. That is improper. That is not right. And I don't believe that you do that at home. Do any of you do that at home? Spend the money before you get it? I don't believe so. Practice what you do at home with our tax money, and that's all I ask. Please have common sense in the decisions that you make. And common sense can tell you, you never approve a project before you have the money in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carney.
There are no more
Mayor,
speakers for this item.
Council, it's my pleasure to reintroduce to you our financial advisor, who's here with us tonight to share with you the information relative to the new COs. But I would remind the council that our chief counsel last week said we're following precisely state law, and he reassured you on that. And number two, in that process, you're required to identify the projects that you're going to do with the COs beforehand. Ms. Lawrence.
Thank you, Manny. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, it's my pleasure to be here. My name is Tom Lawrence with Lawrence Financial Consulting. And Manny just accurately stated what the law requires. You do have to identify your projects before you can go forward with the financing. Otherwise, you would not be in compliance with the statute. And we put the schedule together with a bond lawyer involved, and it met the requirements of the Texas law and your charter. The readings are part of your charter, the publications are part of the statute, and everything was in compliance. We'd never get a bond lawyer's opinion that everything was in line, and we have to get the Attorney General to approve everything. We're following the same process we used last year and back in 2008 for every CEO. It's required by law. We can't do it any other way. So anyway, it's my pleasure to be here and discuss the certificates of obligation, which were in the market yesterday. And if anyone's following the news, the stock market is in a tailspin. It dropped over 500 points today after a big drop yesterday. 7 out of the last 8 days before today. What has this meant for municipal bonds? It's been a joyride for the bond market. Everybody is selling stocks and buying bonds. And when they're buying bonds and the price is going up, that means that the interest rates are going down. So similar to last year when we were in the market, you were in the market at exactly just about the most perfect time you could be to get these certificates sold at a great interest rate. And you should have a handout where it summarizes the certificates of obligation, and it shows you on the first page after the cover essentially how the bonds were marketed to investors. It's not one big $2.7 million loan. It's broken down by maturity and sold to several investors at different rates. And this page simply shows you how the $2.7 million was broken down There's probably 20 or 30 different investors that bought these certificates, or committed to buy these certificates at the interest rate reflected. If you go to the very bottom of that page, that shows you basically the blended true interest cost rate of the entire issue, 3.66 for a 20-year financing. That's with a 12.1-year average life. That is a very good rate. We had been figuring on around 4% just a few weeks ago. So because of what's going on in the marketplace, you enjoyed a rally to your benefit. Pages 2 and 3 are something, it's basically the debt service schedule. This is exactly what will be required to be paid on the exact date. Interest will be paid semi-annually and principal annually. It's a pretty standard municipal bond format. And then if you go over to page 4, it's called sources and uses. It shows you the par amount of $2.7 million. It also shows that investors paid a premium over the $2.7 million of $65,500. And then it shows you the uses down below, the issuance cost, the bond insurance premium, underwriter's discount, and the deposit to the project fund will be out of the $2.7 million, $2,674,000 available for the project, and that will be invested as soon as we close in the first week of September. The last page is a tax rate analysis that Manny keeps a close eye on in terms of what the borrowings are going to do, where your tax basis is, and where it's expected to be. And we structured this so that your tax rate, your interest in sinking tax rate, not your M&O, we don't get involved with that. This is the bond tax. And the bond tax behind the COs will be the same going forward, relatively the same. It may be off by, I don't know, on the 5 or 6 decimal points, it might be a little different, but basically 10.2 cents. Last year, 10.2 cents going forward this year, even with the new COs. As far as the couple other things I wanted to mention, the rating process. This past year, 3 out of 4 rating actions have been downgrades. And you all were able to maintain an A+ rating. In this environment, this economic environment we're in is really, truly remarkable. What this city is doing and stewardship of the council and both Manny's and the rest of your staff, it's really, truly remarkable and to be commended for it. It makes it a lot easier to sell bonds. Investors love to see highly rated issuers, and it's a pleasure to take this to the market. Very easy to sell. This is the numbers. There are documents that the bond lawyer, Leroy Graumander, who's been a bond lawyer for many years, along with me as financial advisor, and I believe you all have those, the papers that will need to be signed with your approval of the certificates, which would be my recommendation as your financial advisor, that you do, in fact, approve the certificates of obligation tonight. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Norris.
Thank you.
Council, I would like to stress again, and for the community that's out there, which is that for the 3rd year in a row, going on our 4th year now in a row, our tax rate has stayed the same. A lot of you may have seen the progress that's beginning to happen the past year with the street paving. This past month, we signed the environmental studies for the sidewalks, which is going to put $500,000 in sidewalks around every school. We were almost completed on the community center. We have the park that's began construction. It's going to have the construction kick off this Saturday, which we invite you all to. And we have the phase 2 of the park happening, phase 2 of the community center, the swimming pool that's already been approved by council for Campestre. So we have a lot of projects in 1 year's time, all without raising taxes. So again, this just, and again, I give credit to Mr. Soto for the stewardship financially that this city has never seen in the past and that you brought to the city. I want to ask you, to have a year's worth of operating expenses in your savings account is unheard of in the state of Texas. Most cities at this point are in financial trouble, and counties. And it's nice to see that the city is maintaining its A+ credit rating. And again, showing what cities can do financially in good stewardship of taxpayers' money.
Yeah, it's A+ rating from Standard & Poor's with an exceptional foundation for the city to work on. Thank you for giving us that approval.
Thank you, Mr. Gloria. Thank you for knowing how to be a true citizen. Absolutely. Thank you.
Is there a motion second on this item?
Motion to approve, seconded by Mary Garcia. Guillermo Madrid,
Yes.
Mary Garcia,
Yes.
Gloria Rodriguez,
Yes.
Jesse Gandara. Ordinance, right?
Yes, it's an ordinance, I can vote in.
Yes. Maria Reyes. Item number 12 is approved.
Move on to item number 13, discussion and action to approve the anticipated proposed tax rate for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2011 through September 30th, 2012 for the city of Socorro, Texas.
Mayor, council, this item has to do with our anticipated proposed tax increase for next year. As we stated, we're going to maintain the same tax rate that we have had for this year and the two previous years for next year. You have two documents in your packet. One was a public notice that appeared today in the West Texas Courier. And that public notice sets out what the effective tax rate is and what the rollback rate is. And if you adopt something higher than the effective tax rate, then you must have public hearings. Right? And what I've given you and highlighted the most important figures is that notice that has to come out next week that talks about our anticipated proposed tax rate for next year, and that we'll have two public hearings, one scheduled for, as a requirement of law, not our charter, but a state law, that at your next regular meeting, you'll conduct the first hearing, and then at your first meeting in September, you'll conduct the second hearing, and that night you'll be eligible after that to adopt the tax rate. Okay, on September 1st. And what I've highlighted for you is in the first paragraph is this year. The year we're in right now, the first highlighted number is the average value of what, for the average homeowner, is in the city of Socorro, $77,978. And at a tax rate of 0.496757, the average taxpayer to the city of Socorro paid this year $387.36. Then in the next paragraph, I highlight for you what the new average value is, which is that figure on the left, $78,617, or about a $630 increase in value. And what does that do to maintain exactly the same tax rate? The next paragraph then shows you, once again, the maintaining of the same tax rate, 0.496757, that we've had since 2008. And by doing so, the taxpayer, because of this slight increase in property value, instead of paying $387.36, will pay $390.54, or on average, a quarter a month. Okay? But that has nothing to do with the rate. It has to do with the value of the property going up ever so slightly, okay, during this year. And so there is a very specific motion that must be made, that are provided to the mayor in order to adopt this. And then in next week's publication, we'll turn this into the city tax office, and we'll show who voted for, who voted against, who was present not voting, and who was absent. And that all gets published in next week's publication as a matter of law. Okay? Questions?
I make a motion to approve item 13.
Bill, she has a specific word.
I make a motion that the city of Socorro establish the following as proposed tax rates for the 2011-2012 fiscal year budget. Maintenance and operation, 0.89457, basic and pension claim. 0.102170, for a total net tax levy of 0.49657 per $100 value on the real and personal property in the city of Socorro, and further, that the city manager and the city clerk be directed to publish such notices and schedule such hearings in regard to the final approval of the proposed tax rates as required by law.
We have a motion on the floor, seconded by Mary Garcia. Guillermo Madrid?
Yes.
Mary Garcia?
Yes.
Gloria Rodriguez?
Yes.
Maria Reyes? No. Item number 13 is approved.
On to item number 14, discussion and action to approve the scheduling of two public hearings on August 19, 2011 and September 1st, 2011 for the anticipated proposed tax rate for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2011 through September 30th, 2012.
Mayor, council, just as a point of information, this is a requirement of law, but is a change in the way, we carry our policy. Our process for an ordinance is first, forget the verb, but in the first part of it, we call for the public hearing. In the second part of it, we have the public hearing. But we're doing it this way because it's a requirement of law.
A motion by Gloria Rodriguez, seconded by Mary Garcia. Guillermo Madrid?
Yes.
Mary Garcia?
Yes.
Gloria Rodriguez?
Yes.
Maria Reyes? No. Item number 14 is approved.
We move on to item number 6 of the public hearing. A public hearing on ordinance 278, amendment number 4, and ordinance of the city of Socorro, Texas, adopting an amended budget for the fiscal year commencing on October 1st, 2010, and ending September 30, 2011, in reference to grant monies received from the Major League Baseball Players Association to be used for field maintenance, i.e. park improvements, lawn care, etc. I remind the public that, as in every public hearing we have before, no derogatory comments are allowed. We expect to have a discourse of ideas, and so we ask that you adhere to that. We open the public hearing at 6:38. Would anybody like to speak on this item? Mr. Lopez, please step forward.
Lopez, Penal 45 Toro, President of the City of Socorro. I think it's wonderful what you're doing in accepting the process, the current process of accepting some money for better facilities for city parks.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this issue? There being none, we close the item at 6:38. We now move on to item number 15. Second reading and adoption on ordinance 278, amendment number 4, and ordinance of the city of Socorro, Texas, adopting an amended budget for the fiscal year commencing on October 1st, 2010, and ending